Hey everyone, welcome back to the lobby, GameSpot's weekly video game hangout here every Wednesday morning in San Francisco, California. We usually have an intro that rolls there, but something's up on the back end. Whatever, we'll add it later. I'm your host, Mike Mahardy, here as always with Peter Brown.
Hello.
Reviews editor at GameSpot. Rob Hanley.
Hi.
Video producer. And Callie Plagge.
Hi.
Also on editorial with Pete and the team. Sorry. Wow, what a week. Kind of a clusterfuck of a launch for Battlefront 2, I would say, to put it lightly. So we'll be getting into that, what with the changes they're making before its official release date, which is Friday the 17th, coming up soon. We're also going to be talking more about our Extra Life stream. Here at GameSpot, we're doing the 72-hour, 3 days in a row stream between the UK and Australia offices. Thank you for everybody joining in the Twitch or YouTube chats. I am in both of those and on GameSpot, so feel free to throw in some questions when you get the chance. We're going to be talking Rocket League on Switch, Doom on Switch, Pokemon Ultra and Moon Ultra.
Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon.
Sun and Moon. What did I just say? Moon Ultra and Sun Ultra. Callie, your review went up a couple nights ago, so we'll dive deeper into that.
Yes.
Pete, you played Xenoblade Chronicles 2 a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you played, but we can only talk about a little bit of what you played. And yeah, like I said, we're going to talk about EA and Battlefront 2 because it's kind of hard not to. As always, we will get into some news. This week, we don't have a dedicated giveaway, which we usually do. If you're new to the lobby, we usually do one of those, but I will kind of preview some of the giveaways that we're going to be doing all weekend on the Extra Life live stream. I'll get into this later in the show, but for those of you who haven't seen our article that went up and seen all of us talking about it, 12 noon on November 17th, we are going to be starting our 72-hour... Ignore these photos. We're going to be starting...
Focus on the one on the bottom right.
Really bad photos of
I
us.
don't know who that is. We're going to be starting the 72-hour Streamapalooza. You can see we got a tiny URL set up down there. Sextra Life 2017. Go there to donate money. We're aiming for 15,000 K this year. I think we'll beat it. We're going to be playing a lot of games. I'll be kicking it off. Callie, you and I will be kicking it off noon on Friday with Sam and Joey.
Yeah.
We're going to be playing some Pokemon games. We're going to be playing, I don't know, XCOM, PUBG. There'll be stuff throughout the
whatever. I want to play
3 days.
Nidhogg. I'm pushing for Nidhogg.
Yeah. The new one or Nidhogg 2 or Nidhogg 1?
Either.
Or both. So yeah, that'll be great. Come hang out. If you have some money to donate to charity, it's all going, for us, it's all going to UCSF, Benioff Children's Hospital here in the Bay Area, but in general, Extra Life is for sick children, so it's always great to help them out for a good cause, and it'll be fun, and we'll probably end up doing some dumb things on stream, as long as we're not violating the terms of use, if you pay us enough money. Well, if you pay the kids enough money.
I wonder if I can do the One Piece rap then.
The what?
I want to do the One Piece for Kids rap.
One Piece being an anime show. 4Kids being a studio that dubs anime.
Thanks, Peter.
You're welcome.
Does it... Needed that. I did as well. Would it violate the terms of use?
I don't know. I'm going to check before.
As long as you're not... So from what I understand, as long as you're not like naked or vomiting. Because remember, we got close to vomiting last year, and
you guys got close to vomiting last year.
Yeah, someone paid. Someone paid like $20.
Mix of liquids, right?
Yeah, someone paid $20 to pick 5 ingredients to mix together so I could eat it. It was jalapeno bagel cream cheese, schmear, soy sauce, hot, like very very hot sauce, milk, and there was one more. And
That's disgusting.
But here's the thing: I drank like a cup and a half of it. It was gross.
Do you remember a time?
Yeah, I'm not doing that. If someone, I'm sorry, I'm not doing
I'll
that.
do it as long as it's for charity.
But I will sing any anime theme song.
Oh boy. I think this is before your time, but we had someone eating paper towels one year.
Ew,
I was doing
with
my-
like hot sauce.
That's so gross.
That was Mary and I. Yeah, we did
That's
that.
so gross.
Gross. Oh yeah, Mary Kish will be stopping by.
There were
damn
two
it.
wrong ways of eating it. Well, one being don't eat paper towels, but one of I was
Just
eating
two.
it slowly, but Mary ate like a whole bunch at once and got it all in a nice like ball and then like choked on it.
Just like pushed it down.
Yeah.
That's not how you eat paper towels. Everyone knows that.
That's not how you eat anything.
Speaking of, Mary Kish, former GameSpot producer, will be stopping by for like 4 hours at some point on Friday. And then Tim Turry, who works at Capcom, good friend of ours here. He does some stuff with Resident Evil, but he also used to be Game Informer if you know him. He'll be stopping by. We'll have a few guests, a lot of giveaways. I'll talk about those later on the show. But first, let's get to the news of the week. Some of this is from last week. Apologies if it's kind of dated. Respawn, the studio Rob, you and I know and love, developer of Titanfall 2, was acquired by EA. So they were published by EA previously. Now EA, it's an internal studio for $400 million US. So here's how it went down. Nexon, a South Korean publisher, gaming conglomerate, wanted to buy Respawn. EA had some sort of contract that allowed them to counter it, and they did, and they got it. This happened the timeline gets fuzzy because people were like, did this happen before or after they sold Visceral, shuttered Visceral? But apparently the timeline is they shuttered Visceral and then bought Respawn. So Titanfall 3 also got announced, kind of a bittersweet thing. If this week with Battlefront 2 is anything to go by, I'm kind of worried about Titanfall 3. What's going to happen with, presumably, like every other EA game, there will be some sort of microtransactions, despite the fact that Titanfall 2 was, we talk about it all the time, as an example of how to do post-release right, with free maps, free, all the microtransactions are aesthetic, right? All the Prime Titans, all the cosmetic items are all microtransactions, but the game is simple enough and not confusing enough and, what did Nick say that one time? Girthy enough without the microtransactions.
Oh, he said girthy and long.
Yes. This game, Titanfall 2, is girthy and long enough without the microtransactions that you don't have to worry about them. But Rob, as a Titanfall 2 fan, I think that was your 1 or 2 game of the year 2 years ago.
My game of the year.
It was your game of the year. Does this worry you about Titanfall 3 based on what's happening with Battlefront 2 and everything around EA?
Sure, it does. Because I think one of the problems.
That's that.
I thought you were just gonna leave it there.
One of the problems with, as well as that game coming in between 2 other huge AAA shooters, right? It had a rough launch. It had a rough time gaining praise. I feel like it was an underrated game, but their microtransaction system, I don't think gave them that much money. It was all purely cosmetics, but I thought it was done perfectly for me. I mean, I still gave money because I adored that game, and it felt justifiable to give money and buy a cool looking Titan skin or whatnot.
I mean, importantly, you knew what you were getting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't. There weren't any gambling.
Yeah,
aspects.
exactly.
You paid $5 for this Scorch skin.
So what I am just praying I don't see is prepare for Cratefall.
It seems inevitable, though. I mean, look at all the opportunities. If you are EA, if you're one of the people who made the decision to do this to Battlefront 2, you're looking at Titanfall 2. You're seeing all kinds of opportunities for cosmetic items with the Titans, with the pilots. Based on Battlefront 2, you're also seeing opportunities to maybe say, like, oh, what if this card buffs Scorch's flame shield? Assuming Scorch is in Titanfall 3.
That would be the worst case scenario.
Right. And it was such a weird, because I was like, oh, Titanfall 3 is happening. That's good, because I wasn't positive. I know Titanfall 2 did okay, but like you said, I didn't think it did gangbusters, but EA cared enough about it to buy Respawn and make them an internal studio. I was surprised this happened, but I don't know. Silver lining is Titanfall 3 is going to happen, but like you said, worst case scenario, it might be almost pay to win like Battlefront 2 is this week, which we're kind of already talking about anyway.
Yeah, I'd like to think that the guys at Respawn have a pretty good grip of their own franchise, right?
It's not their call, though.
Yeah,
I know it's not their call. I'm just saying, like, I hope that they can defend themselves. You know what I mean?
I wonder if Titanfall 2 really didn't do well, and this was the only way they could have made money off of it if EA bought them and said, like, we're going to do this stuff with Titanfall 3 to make money back off of buying your franchise.
I mean, at that point, we're just like wildly speculating. Like, we really
Isn't
don't
it
know.
Fun?
We really don't know what their intention is with Respawn. We don't know that they want to implement a similar sort of thing. I mean, like, we can probably guess that, right, based on what EA does, but I don't.
Who
we should
knows
probably
how
emphasize that we don't know any of this.
Yeah, it'll be the difference of whether the outcry of the core gaming audience is going to be enough to offset their desire for money.
Yeah. And there's obviously people who buy games who aren't involved in, like we were talking about before the show, who aren't involved in gaming communities, who don't go on Reddit or on GameSpot, who are just like, they're the people who are going to buy those microtransactions. So like I don't know.
Yeah.
It depends how it performs in other games.
I think it's also crazy to think that like just by looking at like Battlefront and how that game was rolling out and how we saw cool trailers, and for me at least there was generally an amount of hype that went with that. And then at what point did the progression and loot crate system start kind of rolling out? You know what I mean? Like it takes then I feel like a year to then see that, you know what I mean? So it's like I just feel like you can never really see a game until it's fairly close to launch, right? And that's where, for me at least, as like a crazy Titanfall fan, like I just feel like I have to like bite my lip until I can at least have like a relaxed feeling about a game. I don't know.
Yeah, people are blaming the horse armor from Skyrim for DLC and microtransactions. But yeah, just one more news story I want to get through before we get into the main topics today. Vaulting went to PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds and the test servers, which if you play it often, you know how big of a deal that is relatively, because previously you had to run sideways, sprint to jump over low enough walls. But now it's out there. I think Jake and Nick were playing the other night. I don't know if we have any gameplay up of it yet.
They play every night.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. But I'm trying to remember. I don't think it confused me because Nick's name on the test servers is Michael Hyam, who's another employee at GameSpot. So
I thought his name
Michael
was Daddy
playing.
Dabs.
No, that's on the test servers. He's Michael Hyam.
Oh.
So I thought it was Michael Hyam playing. But yeah, they were playing. It's pretty much like an actual action to vault over things now. And then they
you mean like mantling sort of, or
yes,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah. As opposed to before, you had to do this weird sideways sprint often to
You
get
had to
over
like do
low
some
picket
weird
fences.
cheese it, yeah.
Yeah. And also the desert map. More details about the desert map were leaked, as well as vehicles that'll come to the desert map. It'll be going to Xbox Early Access in December, but they pushed the full release to next year, apparently, which isn't too surprising. They've been no one knows when it's happening now. That leads to the interesting discussion around whether you consider PUBG like a released game.
Well, it's even worse because it's early access on Xbox, but the 1.0, which is what you name your ready to be released game, is coming out on PC.
yeah.
So it'll have a final release on PC this year, but early
Right.
access Xbox this year.
So it'll still technically be a PC exclusive in the sense that it's a full game this year.
yeah,
It's so weird thinking about how you even classify games now. It's because PUBG at this
annoying.
point, PUBG is early access, but we were talking today about all the games that it's cleaner than. Like when Mass Effect Andromeda released, that was a mess. Like obviously you paid $60 for that, and that was from a BioWare Montreal, but it's just weird thinking about how things have changed. And now
PUBG, when that went into first early access, was that launch, if that's what you would call it, was that like fairly stable and everything like that?
fairly, yeah. I think the reason PUBG is so successful, it's nowhere near the first game to do what it's doing. It's like the fifth, and it spawned off of Arma 2, off of DayZ. It's just stable. I wouldn't say it's not like gorgeous looking. It's not
But DayZ wasn't even stable. That's
No.
standalone. So in compared to that, I would
Right.
imagine PUBG was a way better experience.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like PUBG has worked well so often. I think people play it all the time is because it's pretty reliable and consistent. You'll see there will be games where like you won't see buildings, but that's
Yeah.
few and far between.
I really would like it to be more optimized though, because I am putting off buying a new graphics card for money, and it just doesn't work on my home PC. I would
Yeah.
have to play in the office. So that is the one thing that bothers me about the early access game, is that like it doesn't require, like it shouldn't require like a 1070 or whatever, but
Yeah, it's not optimized
it might
well.
as well. Yeah.
mine's pretty old. Mine's from 2013. It's like 670, so it's like not gonna run a lot of things super well, but I still think it's not graphically demanding enough to warrant me having to buy a new one. That's my one thing that is irritating with the early access stuff.
Is the Xbox version appealing to you in that sense, that it's just already optimized for that device?
Yeah, I mean, because I already have an Xbox, then I wouldn't have to buy
Yeah.
anything new except for a copy of PUBG. But I've already purchased. I bought the $30 version on Steam, so I mean, I was going to upgrade my graphics card anyway. So it's like a stupid complaint, really. But it's like, oh, now I feel like I have to do it now because I want to play it before Game of the Year stuff.
Yeah.
We talk about it, I've liked what I've played of PUBG.
Yeah, it's got its fans, to say the least, obviously, but it still becomes this weird gray area where, like, what does it even mean to be a fully released game anymore?
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on to our bigger segments today, we are going to get to Pokemon, Xenoblade Chronicles, and Battlefront 2. Probably talk most about Battlefront 2 and EA. But first, Pete, you put up a review yesterday for Rocket League on Switch. Most people in the GameSpot office are fans of Rocket League. That was kind of our 5 p.m. game for quite a long time, for a couple of years. Now it's coming to Nintendo's console. Another example of how third parties are supporting Nintendo on the Switch. How's it play? How's it look? What's going on with this game?
It looks like it's a port to a lesser platform than the ones it was created for. More
Yeah.
importantly, it doesn't play like it. It plays exactly like the way you remember it. And it's got, the portability factor going on. And you can even play with a single Joy-Con if you want. And there's I think one command on the controller that's not there, but it freaking works.
Yeah, you're not able to do like the quick chat on a Joy-Con because you're missing like a second kind of D-pad.
Sure. Yeah, and you can flip to the secondary camera mode where it's like a free camera, but it's not actually free moving. You can only just face forward, as opposed to the other mode, which is always focused on the ball. But yeah, I mean, you're looking at the Switch version here. That's my sixth Samus car. That's a sick goal. And
sick.
it's I mean, what's important here is frame rate. What's important is
Mario
controls. What's important is online functionality, and all that stuff just works. And even the graphics stuff, as much as I can, look at it and say, yeah, this kind of looks like shit once in a while, it doesn't matter. This game doesn't need to look good to play well. I think I said to someone yesterday, like, this thing was a brick. I think I was saying to you, I was like, I don't care if this thing looks like a brick. Like, I would still play it.
Yeah, you're saying the frame rate's the most important thing here, and that's not affected at all on the Switch.
No, I haven't seen any issues there.
So you said it plays well on portable. Like, if you were to be playing multiplayer, does it feel? I was talking about this. This game is so reliant on its almost flawless mechanics and how you use them.
Yeah.
Having the portable thing instead of a pro controller always seems questionable to me. Same with when you're talking about Doom on Switch, which we're going to talk about shortly.
Yeah.
Games that rely on their mechanics, it's always weird to have that much space between the analog sticks, and when you're holding it, that feels fine.
It takes some time to get used to it, but I'd say 4 or 5 matches in, and you're not really thinking about it anymore.
Cool.
The one thing that I ran into that Eric Tay also mentioned, so this game doesn't really have any anti-aliasing, which means a lot of the 3D models are jagged looking. And it also doesn't seem to have great depth of field processing. So what that means basically when you're playing on handheld mode is that something way on the opposite end of the court, let's say you're protecting your goal and you're looking at the opponent's goal from the other end, the jaggies will appear consistently large for distant objects and close objects. So that can be an issue if, say, someone gets the right shot to send the ball flying directly at you, like when you're looking at it, because then you just can't really judge the speed of it all that well. But that's the thing that popped up like 2 or 3 times for me across like 20 matches on handheld.
Yeah, like I haven't had it happen to me, and I've put a decent amount of hours in, but I could see that. Yeah, when it's flying so fast from across field,
right?
Where it's
a circumstantial thing, definitely.
But yeah, and to touch on like the controls, like I haven't played Doom Switch, but one of the complaints with that game is the portable factor of using the Joy-Cons, and for a game like that, which really does require as a first-person shooter, like really precise movements of the joystick. I could see that getting frustrating. Yeah, I could see that. There's Peter showing an example of using a USB keyboard because, unfortunately, there is no quick chat with like PS4, right? That has like the auto text kind of thing.
Right, but also when you load up the keyboard on PS4, it'll keep the game running in the background with your keyboard being somewhat transparent. When you open up the keyboard to chat on Switch, you can't see what's actually happening on screen.
Right. So you can't chat before a match starts.
You can't say dumb shit. You can still say the things that are auto-mapped to your D-pad.
Yeah.
Those work just the same. There are some small compromises to be made here, but the core that really counts is present and functions.
And just to touch on what I was trying to say was that like with the Joy-Cons, I played a decent amount handheld, and you could kind of like get a sense of the length of like, like I can see myself getting better at the Joy-Cons and having it handheld. What single Joy-Con is still pretty difficult, but like handheld, it was like, oh, I'm getting the hang of this. The one thing would be like in aerial play where you are really like relying on like ultra precise like car positioning. Like you could see yourself just getting better at that handheld, and then on a controller, it's great.
I was just gonna say, I wonder how many people are playing this, and then I forgot it's the crossplay with Xbox and PC audience. So there were 80,000 people playing on the night it launched on Switch.
Don't you forget it.
Don't know how many of those people were playing on Switch per se, but obviously, unless you're playing on PS4, you're not gated off from the other communities. That's still Sony's choice. Like Psyonix is always saying, literally, we would check a box on this webpage, and Sony would be able to play with Microsoft players and PC as well.
And you are able to turn off cross-platform and just play with Switch owners as well.
Really?
If those minor problems feel like it's an uneven playing field.
Sure, like if you feel like you're getting worked, or you have that like resentment of like, oh, someone on Xbox or PC is having a better experience, like you can do that. As well as and we tested on a live stream. You do have the ability to do the private servers. It doesn't seem like you can match with someone who is on an Xbox or a PC, because that requires like being friends with them to my understanding.
But in matchmaking,
in matchmaking, you can do private matches and just be like, here's the code, or like,
Yeah.
let me like team up with or play with other people on different platforms, PC or Xbox.
So I'm terrible at Rocket League because I played it on PC, and I don't know, the controls not work for me, and I'm very bad at it. So I would happily play with other people on cross-platform and just pretend that playing on Switch
Yeah.
was making me bad. Like,
Were you trying mouse and keyboard on PC? Is that why?
Yeah, I did mouse and
Oh,
keyboard.
Jesus.
yeah,
It
you do.
moves
I think
really hard.
That's ambitious.
I gave
Yeah,
up very quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, that is good. I'm happy. Like, it's just bodes well for Rocket League, which like the team at Psyonix does great work over there, and I'm glad that the Switch is continuing to get third-party support. Any last minute you want to? I mean, like, you have your review up on GameSpot. If you want to go read that on GameSpot or watch it on YouTube, video reviews up there as well.
Yeah.
Any last minute thoughts, Peter?
Play fucking Rocket League, yo.
We
What's
should
your
play it
problem?
today. I
What's
want
your
to.
problem?
Like, watching gameplay of it makes me want to play it.
I should probably play to like be a proper GameSpot employee.
It's eligible for Game of the Year. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I just really we all like Rocket League.
What's funny is that when Rocket League first came out and we were doing our Game of the Year debates, it was pretty much for the second and third slot between Rocket League and Metal Gear Solid 5. And while
Which you gave Metal Gear a 10 and were very adamant about it.
well, yes, and while I enjoyed Rocket League at the time, I hadn't put as much time into it as I have at this point, and I'm curious how that debate would look now, coming from me.
I love thinking about that.
It was
It was
I talk
Game of
about
the
that
Year is a
sometimes, though.
very, very personal and testy like room where people are really arguing. It's like, really, you're gonna do that? Like, you're gonna pick
Yeah.
that game?
I've
And
yelled at people in Game of the Year
Yeah.
meetings before.
Yeah.
It gets
I've
pretty
killed
intense.
people.
Yeah, I
Kill
saw
people.
that.
Don't feel that. Feel
Killed
good
a
about
man,
it, but
yeah.
Yeah,
But it is interesting to like think about that game because I had resentments too. It was like, damn, does Rocket League deserve to be up here? Like, I gotta go home and think about it. Like,
that dude didn't even make it out of the ambulance. You were vicious. All right, but speaking of other third-party titles on Switch, you played Doom recently.
I did.
Didn't fare as well as Rocket League.
No,
overall.
but still good. I'd still recommend playing it if you haven't played Doom. It's a little bit. It's a tough pill to swallow at $60. I gotta say, for a port.
Yeah, I did not know this was $60 until right before the game came out.
Nobody I talked to did. They're like, no. They're like, you mean $30, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, nope. And it's the same with Skyrim. That's also a full price game, and it's like, okay, like I guess I can see the thinking behind it. But that being that it's Switch and Switch is hot and people will buy games for Switch.
Right. I mean, I understand $60 for Doom more than Skyrim. Skyrim is 6 years old, but whatever.
Yeah.
Just side note.
But like you can buy Doom for $20 anywhere right now.
That's true. Yeah.
On other platforms.
Yeah, and I also, just having played both these games extensively, especially Skyrim, I care less about visuals and the mechanical finesse of the game. And Doom, I think that's all there. Not all there is, but that's a huge part of it. But
Yeah.
how?
I mean,
it's
Doom's
weird.
aesthetic is a huge
Yeah.
part of that game.
Right. And that's sort of something I like quietly addressed in my Rocket League review, which is that like, okay, well, this is actually done by the same studio that did the port for Rocket League. So it's a really interesting point of comparison for what that studio can do.
Oh.
Panic Button is
Okay.
their name. So yeah, like unlike Rocket League, you don't need the world to look great for you to buy into the things that you're doing. Where in Doom, that certainly helps sell like this sort of like, feverish thrill of hunting down demons in hell. When hell starts to look like it's made out of cardboard,
Yeah.
maybe that whatever immersion you're experiencing as a Doomslayer just kind of like it just feels slightly diminished. But like Doom is also great action. So if you can kind of see through the poor textures and the strange resolution switches, you can still really get into the game and enjoy it, which is why it got the a positive score from us, even if it's not as high as the other versions.
Yeah, how does it feel? I'm trying to think. Aside from Splatoon 2, obviously, which is a first party, or which is a Nintendo title on the Switch.
And a third-person shooter.
Right. What
Yeah.
would you? Is this a kind of a good indicator of the future of first-person shooters on Switch, or does this kind of make you wary? Or
I think it shows that they can work. I think handheld is maybe the one thing that really needs to be worked on or refined in some way because, despite trying to change camera sensitivities and, how the controls really functioned, I still found myself struggling with the very small joysticks on, or analog sticks on the Joy-Cons when playing handheld. And that was something that I got used to, but I never felt like I was playing at the same level of skill and efficiency as I was otherwise.
I'll also say to your question, Mike, that like Doom I love 2016 Doom. I think it depends on the type of first-person shooter. I mean, this game is very much like kill chamber, constant movement.
Like forward movement specifically.
Yeah,
if you're playing,
like when I played this game, I played it on Xbox. Just constant movement, kind of like always facing the center of the room and moving in the perimeter kind of movement. So I think it depends also on the style of first-person shooter you're playing, and
Sure.
I'm interested to see how Wolfenstein 2 plays on Switch.
Yeah, they're very-
because that's another sort of, it has some classic shooter elements because it is based on another id Software title. So
I am curious as well because I mean, Doom encourages you to keep moving and be aggressive, even when your health's low. They
Yeah.
encourage you to do glory kills. Wolfenstein encourages you to be aggressive because the enemies are pretty smart in flanking you, but you do have to take cover every once in a while and kind of just
you could
thin
take
them
that
out.
game really slow.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's stealth as well before
Yeah.
you even kind of start a firefight. But yeah, Doom is such a weird. I'm glad it came to Switch, and like I said, Rocket League is on Switch, like Wolfenstein 2 next year, and Bethesda is like heavily supporting their games coming to Switch. But Doom seems a weird game to start off with. It makes sense chronologically because it came out in 2016, long before Wolfenstein 2, which will come out next year on Switch. But it does seem like it. I don't know, just I can't wrap my head around a game like this being on handheld, and you said that same thing. It's just such a when you're playing with a controller that wide, I realize this is pedantic, but your center of gravity between your hands, if that makes sense, is so off. Compared,
mean,
like I couldn't
Isn't that
play.
why the N64 controller has that extra prong is for
Yeah.
the rumble like just like Nintendo controllers having a weird like center of gravity in your hands
Yeah.
is like not a new thing.
And Splatoon worked. Whatever you want to say about the motion controls, those felt good with Splatoon
I-
too, right?
I actually played Splatoon 2 almost entirely on handheld.
Yeah. And it felt
yeah.
good, right?
Yeah, and it felt
was developed
great to
for
play.
the Switch.
Right. And I think that's another thing is Splatoon 2 is a shooter, yes, but it's a very different flavor
Mm.
of shooter. So I don't think it's a one-to-one comparison.
You
But
see any other?
I love that Bethesda is supporting the Switch so heavily and that third party and like just I don't know. I feel like this is a game, Doom especially is a game that the Nintendo of maybe 10 years ago would have shied away from really heavily.
Yeah.
And that's encouraging to me as well that they're kind of like over that family friendly only phase.
Between this
Apparently,
and Wolfenstein.
from from what we're getting now.
Especially
With Wolfenstein.
Yeah, that's not family friendly at all.
Yeah.
Unless you're, I don't know what I was gonna say. It's it is encouraging. I'm curious like how long the lifespan of first person shooters on the Switch is, unless they just keep figuring it out and iterating on it, which hopefully is the case because Wolfenstein doesn't have a release date yet, but it's next year at some point in 2018. We'll see if it'd be a good reason to replay it. But did you play multiplayer on Doom Switch too?
You
Is
betcha.
that all? How was that?
Looks far worse.
Really?
Oh, no.
Yep.
With just frame rate, everything in general.
Mostly the resolution of textures and 3D models are really low.
Yeah.
It looks like a early PS2 game.
Damn.
Yeah, but it functions, and there really isn't anything like it on Switch. I mean, even if you think of Splatoon, very different, aims, as it were, from competitive gaming. So
You think that's an important audience for Nintendo? I mean, outside of Splatoon 2, there's no other like first-party shooter that
every
you could
audience
play.
is important to Nintendo.
Well, what about
Right.
Metroid Prime?
Well, Metroid Prime when it comes out, right? That's a good Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah.
But as far as I don't know, I'm Metroid Prime is a shooter, but I'd almost put that in a different
Like I said,
subgenre. I don't even know.
I wouldn't put all first-person shooters in the same basket.
Well, they figured out how to make Prime Corruption feel great on the Wii. If you played that, it feels great despite like motion controls and whatnot.
And also, we're talking as people who really like first-person shooters and play a lot of shooters. I think maybe there is, and I don't know if I would consider Doom to be that game, but maybe there is a place for like somebody who's maybe not as into shooters but is interested in them,
Or if they only own a Switch and not
or
a PC. Or
yeah,
anything.
and just want to like play a little bit, who aren't really interested in multiplayer, maybe, because it sounds like that's probably where Doom is at its worst on Switch,
Yeah.
from what you
Yeah.
said.
yeah.
Were you gonna
But
say?
who's playing that? You're not playing multiplayer.
I did
Not
not
many
touch
people
multiplayer when I played it.
I don't even think
It's
I
very
played a
basic,
bit
I
of it.
expect.
Yeah.
Were you gonna say something about Metroid Prime?
I was going to, and then I forgot.
Oh, I'm
So I'm
sorry.
not going to anymore.
So
sorry.
Doom on Switch is $60. It's out as of Friday.
Sure.
Cool. You can go check that out if you haven't played it, or if you want to replay it on now that you've got your Switch up and running and you haven't played it since maybe 2016. It's a fantastic shooter. Some small problems on the Switch, some bigger, but Go check it out. That's pretty much it for new Switch games. Skyrim on Switch is coming out Friday, actually,
Yeah.
alongside Battlefront 2 on the same day. Can we talk about Skyrim on Switch at all yet?
Nope.
Nope.
But we can talk about Xenoblade, Mike. Which is
Well,
also
we
a Switch
can.
game.
We can in a little bit.
You said that's it for new Switch games.
I know, but we're gonna talk about Pokemon 3DS stuff.
And then come back to new Switch games? All right.
No, we're not going back to new Switch games. Just kidding. Xenoblade Chronicles 2. We'll just jump right into that. That's as terrible of a segue as any. Xenoblade Chronicles 2. You know, like, is this the next big Well, it is the next big RPG on Switch, but you think this is the next great Switch entry?
Nope.
Really?
Nope.
Based on what you played?
Not yet, anyway.
Okay.
I haven't gotten that sense yet. What this feels like is an extension, a slight, retooling of what Xenoblade Chronicles has always been, which is good in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
But, it comes with a lot of caveats that I think people may, if they are expecting this to be the next flagship Switch game and they pick it up because they think, oh, it'll just be fine. This is my next Mario or my next Zelda. They might realize, oh, wait, this is like... this shows signs of maybe the least universally loved tendencies of Japanese development. So you will see a lot of really strange anime trope type things in here that sort of butt heads with the tone that they're really trying to establish or the story they're trying to make you care about.
Right.
There's just certain things that also are a bit lo-fi and a bit janky that you look at Western RPGs or even some of the better Japanese RPGs and you're like, oh, they put more effort into making this feel like a more modern experience. But if you know that you're someone who likes the series already, or if you enjoyed RPGs from Japan pretty much in general, I think you're safe to look forward to this game. Like I said, I have a couple misgivings with it so far, but I'm still looking forward to playing it because the things that this game does really well are intact, which is putting you in these very large worlds, which with large selections of monsters, some of which that you'll run underfoot and you're like, I can't fight that guy for another 40 hours. And you're either hanging out with him already or you're trying to avoid him. And, it's just this sort of sense of exploration and combat, that flow, if you will, that works so well. And the game does a few things new. That girl behind you, Pyrrha, she is your blade, even though you also have a blade.
Wait.
Like a physical
Sorry.
blade.
Yeah.
They're like
Secondary blade?
familiars, I think.
They're like
right?
familiars, but they're also...
Personae.
No. It's like they're familiars, but they're not because they seem like tangible things on their own, but they're also born from crystals. So it's really hard to say if they're a familiar or not a familiar. They are essentially a strange sidekick.
Do all
I'll
of
put it that
them
way.
have the weird pants that aren't pants?
No, I mean that's another thing right there. I mean it's like you can see 60% of her butt crack. I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense, and it's just one of those stylistic choices that works for a particular type of audience. But if you're not into that, you have to deal with it if you're going to enjoy this game. It's not the end of the world, but it doesn't necessarily do the game any favors. Let's say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care about that. I just think it's funny.
No, right,
for
yeah.
no reason, she has this weird thong sticking out.
It's not upsetting. It's just kind of lame. So the essentially blades function, as sort of like an ability tree for you and your support in combat as well. So they determine what sort of abilities you can cast during battle, and you can swap between 3 different blades on the fly. There's actually a lot to talk about with combat, so if I was really trying to dig into it, we'd be here forever. And that's actually one of the strange things about the game is that hours in, you're still getting tutorial messages, and the tutorial messages are framed as though there's a narrator. He goes, I'm going to take a minute to tell you about this thing. You're like... Who are you? I don't even know who you are.
It's like the narrator in Moonrise Kingdom on New Penzance Island.
That's like the Danganronpa narrator, except that game is supposed to be like that.
Right. I mean, and so technically, it's not like a verbal narration. It's a.
That was a much more apt. Sorry, I was going Wes Anderson mode for a second.
It's all text-based stuff, but yeah, it's just kind of strange. And I will say it's almost correcting one of the wrongs with Xenoblade Chronicles X, the previous game, which was obtuse with some of its systems to the point that you'd have to dig through the manual, which isn't the end of the world, but anyway, now they've kind of tried to course correct a bit, and it might be too heavy-handed at the start. But I'm still pretty early into the game. This is probably a 70, 80-hour game. I'm less than 8 hours in right now, so I've got quite a ways to go. But I am enjoying it despite my misgivings. The one thing that I can't get over is the voice acting. It is atrocious.
Oh,
Like the localization?
no.
No, the localization is, I don't know, probably fine, but it's the like the actors behind the voices, especially the main character Rex. It's just bad. It's
Why,
not a matter
why?
of.
Wait, I like this cat girl. She's cool.
She's all right. Actually, I'll get to what this sort of scene does do well in a second. But like, so for example, like, you know, you're running into combat and there's like this big dramatic moment where you feel empowered and you should be like, ah! Like, you know, really like the guy's like, ah! It's like
You're drunk.
it's like he was like, am I allowed to yell in this booth? And like, no, just go for it. And he's like, I just feel bad yelling. Like, I don't know if I should. Like,
Just like first take type stuff. Like, no, that's perfect. Let's move on.
no, yeah, it does
Yeah.
seem that way, and it doesn't seem, and it seems like, yeah, like, and in that same vein, you know, there's a line that you're reading or you're hearing, and you're like, the way that that's phrased should carry a certain emotion with it, and this character just doesn't deliver that, and so you constantly feel like the script is actually undermined by the acting, you know, behind the characters. The cutscenes, though, are still enjoyable because you get these sort of, and these are the best that the series has been so far, these like little story sequences that sort of like use anime type tropes in a good way for lighthearted humor stuff, right? It's just when the game tries to be serious, but it also has, you know, a furry egg speaking in third person about itself, trying to make a joke, that
that
you
was
sort
from
of
the-
start to lose sight of what it's really trying to accomplish.
The furry egg, wasn't that from the last game?
They've been in every game. It's this series of characters known as Nopon. They are the Furby of, you know, this universe, and
They're back.
they're it's an easy way to just sort of sap away any sort of like serious connection with what's happening, is to look at this thing just and to that point too, like this game, like, you know, I was mentioning earlier, sort of like this the aged things that this game presents, like idle animations when characters are just standing by during a discussion, people are just breathing heavily and like swaying their arms to and
Yeah,
fro.
I
Like,
know that game.
You just sort of look at it and you're like, right, like this is not a refined modern RPG. This is a refined yesteryear RPG, which isn't the end of the world. You just got to know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
It's a shame. I mean, like you said, you haven't finished it, but I was kind of hoping to hear more praise because aside from Pokemon, the Switch exclusive sometime next year, presumably, and does Shin Megami Tensei 5 have a release date yet? I don't. That's just next year, right?
right?
Those are the next two big RPGs I can think of on the Switch.
Yeah.
Just kind of hoping that Xenoblade Chronicles 2 releases on December 1st of this year, so
Yeah.
like what, 2 weeks away? Kind of hoping that this would fill that gap, especially because you had good things to say about Xenoblade Chronicles X and the Wii U, right?
I still have good things to say about this.
Sure, yeah.
And even X, I had a lot of problems with, but I still ended up giving that game an 8 because it was the issues that I had with that game primarily were, again, stylistic choices, and in only some respects did I feel like those betrayed what the game, you know, its stronger suits. I felt the need to mention them because they annoyed me,
Yeah.
but ultimately I still found a great game worth playing. And right now, I still think that this is a game that I personally look forward to because I come from a background that used to like maybe the things this game does now that I no longer like, but I can understand why they're there and look past them in a way, except the voice acting. That I've literally muted the game. There's no voice acting unless I'm in a cutscene. Unless I'm in a cutscene recording for footage. It's that annoying. But on launch day, they are releasing the Japanese voice pack, and if experience is anything to go by, it's not just, oh, this is a Japanese game, so I need the Japanese voices. No, it's that Japanese voice actors tend to convey far more emotion. Even if I don't understand what they're saying, I can feel the weight of the line they're delivering far more than I can so far in this game with its cast.
Especially when you're playing a game that relies on anime tropes too, because those things can be over the top in a way that, like, English voice acting, sometimes it just sounds so cheesy. Like the scream, they're like, like, I just feel like there's certain things that don't work because they don't translate one-to-one in some respects, and that's not the fault of localization. That's just like a stylistic thing that for me is very jarring. I understand people who like dubs, but it's weird for me.
I think the core issue is that the Japanese voice actors are probably far more familiar with the people making the game, what the game actually is, versus what I imagine is a team of British voice actors in England receiving a script and being potentially directed by someone, but they're it would just stand to reason that they don't really know the context of what they're reading. Like, they don't understand maybe the gravity of the situations these characters are facing. Or they do, and they're just bad voice actors, and they don't know how to accomplish the goals that they set out to. But there is certainly some divide present between the amount of effort put into what's happening around you and what seems to be a lack of understanding from the actors.
I remember Persona 5 earlier this year, like the English voice acting, they didn't know how to pronounce half the Japanese names.
Sakamoto.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
so that shouldn't happen if there's someone tied to the game who is nearby who can say, bloop, excuse me, over the mic. Yes, I just want to tell you that you're pronouncing that wrong. This is how you
Yeah.
say it. Thank you. That's all it takes,
Yeah.
right?
The most exposure I have to like Japanese culture and Japanese language is through games, and I knew how to pronounce half of those, and the paid voice actors didn't. But the Japanese voice actors came out, and you could download that, and everybody says they were much, much better. Same thing with this, I guess. But so any last thoughts that you can talk about at this point before we get toward the review?
Rampy Punk. Yeah, and it's a whole race of things that exist in the
Looks
game.
like what do you want to call it from the Last Jedi trailer? Porgy?
Oh God.
yeah.
A porg.
Don't you bring Star
Porg,
Wars
yeah.
into this?
Doesn't it kind of remind you of
It does look like a
A little
porg.
Yeah.
bit. Only I've never seen ears as hands before, and it's blowing my mind.
Is that what? Are they
Oh my god,
dexterous
is he
ears?
sweating?
Yeah, his ears are pulling levers and
You know,
stuff.
I don't hate him because he's silent right now. I don't
Yeah,
hate him right now.
It helps. It really helps.
All right. So Xenoblade.
sorry, can I do that
That's going to
again?
become. I feel like I've heard so many lines in this game that are going to become memes because they're so
Like the
poorly
wizard
delivered
in the
and
moon.
acted that it's just like, yeah, like it might as well be that wizard came from the moon.
Yeah.
It's just like,
All right. Well, your full review for Xenoblade Chronicles 2 will be up closer to
close to
December
launch.
1st.
Yeah. Yeah. Mixed impressions so far.
All right. Well, moving on to another RPG. This time on the 3DS, Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, the re-release of the 2015 Pokemon game. Is that correct?
I wouldn't say it's a re-release. It's Pokemon has been doing weird things with the like sequel-y titles in their generations. So like Generation 1 is like Red and Blue, and then they released Yellow like a year later in the US. And so they've been doing that since the beginning. With Black 2 and White 2, they did direct sequels, and with this generation, which is the 7th generation of Pokemon games, they did sort of like a definitive version of Sun and Moon. So it adds Pokemon to the Pokedex, the national Pokedex that you can choose from, and it makes some tweaks. So the biggest thing for me is a common complaint I heard about Sun and Moon was that the beginning was excruciatingly slow. And I think, Mike, you kind of echoed this when we were talking about it, because you were like, you didn't speak very favorably of Sun and Moon, and it sounded like you couldn't get through that opening, which I don't blame you, because the opening is a lot.
I did, but it took some effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically in Sun and Moon, you have to go through like a bunch of different cutscenes and like meet like 10 different people before you even get your starter Pokemon. And they just totally reversed that and got rid of a bunch of the expository garbage that nobody cares about. So you get your starter Pokemon right away. And I was like, oh, we're getting right into this. Like, I was so pleasantly surprised. And it gets rid of that handholdy feeling of like, okay, we're walking and we're meeting my mom. We're walking and we're meeting the professor. Like, it let me roam immediately, which I really liked. And so it definitely felt like they were like, all right, I think we all, by now, everybody knows how to play Pokemon, so we're just going to let you do that. It felt, it was a relief for me. And then there's just like quality of life improvements with Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon that just make things slightly more streamlined. They tweaked some of the trials, which is this generation's take on gyms. So instead of going from like gym to gym to the Elite Four, you do these like trial activities, which involves battling Pokemon, but also like little puzzly things, which is a nice change of pace. And they tweaked some of those, like some of the more chore-like ones. Like there's one where you have to fetch 3 ingredients for a stew.
Oh, in the cave or whatever.
Yeah,
it was?
you're in like a meadow
Oh.
forest thing. And you have to like fetch 3 ingredients, and they changed it where you have to like try to figure out which, like there's an area with like a bunch of Sudowoodo, like the tree Pokemon, and like one of them is just a tree and the rest are Pokemon. You kind of have to like figure out which one is which, and it's the spots on the tree. So I did it. But yeah, so there's stuff like that, and just like you can pet the dog.
Yes.
Which is like Ace. Unfortunately, we can't show any footage because of embargoes. What else did they change? I will say that the addition of new Pokemon that weren't in Sun and Moon in the National Pokedex is really good for competitive players. I always try to keep this in mind because I really like the competitive metagame of Pokemon, and anything that tweaks that metagame and keeps it fresh and interesting is important to me. And so it seems like they take that into account as well as some of the more casual players. So I think it's good. I liked it.
Nice.
So for someone like myself who thought Moon was all right, Sun and Moon were all right, is this should I give it a second chance now? Are there enough changes here that it would change my mind potentially?
I mean, last time I talked to you, you said it was worse than all right. So I'm curious.
That's probably being negative.
Did
I
you
got
beat
like
it?
3/4 of the way through the game.
Okay.
I played a lot of it.
I think if people were, I don't know if I recommend it to somebody who didn't like Sun and Moon.
Okay.
Because it is a very similar game. They changed some of the story beats. So there's like a new antagonist. It ends up making it more confusing. So it's like, I don't really play Pokemon for the story anyway. I don't know if there's enough changes to the actual like structure of the game to be like if you like hated the trials or something like that. But if you were like, oh, I have to do this chore like thing, this is kind of a slog, this thing I have to do, then this fixes all of that for you.
You're into the competitive space with Pokemon, right?
Yeah.
Or you pay attention to it? I don't know if you play.
I play, yeah.
Oh.
I breed Pokemon and I play competitively.
Forgive me if you already kind of touched on it. Someone was asked, Potsy1996 in the YouTube chat was saying like, with the competitive space, are there many major changes?
Yes.
Okay.
So in addition to the new Pokemon in the Pokedex, they added move tutors, and I'm so excited about this. It was
Tutors?
way too. Oh my!
Sorry, you asked for that one.
No, I didn't.
Just kidding.
Restaurant
Sorry.
called Tutors, or
I'm sorry.
waiters just fart next to you.
Okay,
every time they walk by.
move tutors.
Why did you get restaurant out of? Okay.
Because Hooters. Hooters is a restaurant, so
Oh.
Tutors is the
You went-
follow-up.
this
People
is-
fart instead of show their chest.
I didn't mean to spark this word
Gosh.
association. Sorry, Callie. I
Oh,
derailed
I'm sorry for tapping the table today.
you. Move tutors. What's going on with
Anyway,
these guys?
this is too niche for the review, but I did mention this on Twitter. I'm very excited because in Sun and Moon, they didn't have that many move tutors, which is person. It's a place you can go to, and with battle points, which you amass through the kind of competitive channels within the game. I forget if it's called, I think it's the battle tree in Sun and Moon, but you get battle points, and it's like a different currency, and you can teach your Pokemon moves that they couldn't learn naturally or through TMs.
Okay.
And they didn't have that many in Sun and Moon, which meant my Umbreon was completely useless.
Oh, God.
It's the worst. And so they added a bunch, and there's like a surfing mini game that you can play tied to it. I talked to an NPC that said something about surfing Pikachu, so I need to check that out. So there's a lot of stuff I think for the super involved Pokemon player as well. And then there's this, which I can't talk about right now, unfortunately, other than what we are literally looking at right now.
Okay.
But yeah, you can check out Pokemon to rent. Try them out, which is also really cool for competitive players who maybe don't have access to legendary Pokemon and want to try move sets before committing to a legendary Pokemon, because you can only catch those once and you'd have to restart the whole game in order
Yeah.
to change it unless you hacked it, which you should not do.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, I'll stop talking.
Did you say you can't talk about something we're seeing? Isn't your review up, or do they have a weird embargo because the
The
game's out
embargo
Friday?
is super weird. Yeah,
Oh.
the embargo is complicated, so I can't
There's
say
like an end game thing.
like I
basically.
can't say any more about this than what you are literally looking at.
Like spoilerish, I
Yeah.
guess. Considered.
But
Okay.
there's Mewtwo. There he is.
Mew also.
I know him.
There's
I know those three. I know those
there's
two.
the birds.
I know him.
Yeah,
I know a few of these.
Those good boys. That's a Rayquaza.
Cool.
I always name my Rayquaza Parthenax after the dragon in Skyrim. Just a side note.
All right.
Oh shit.
It barely
deep cut.
fits. Yeah.
All right. Any last minute things you still can talk about Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon?
Yeah, just to wrap up, I think this is definitely, like, for me, I think Generation 7 does so much to make it welcoming to both the more casual player, the beginner player, and also the super hardcore competitive player that's really focused on the end game. And so from my perspective, these generations do a lot to improve that experience all around. And so for Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, I think they just add the necessary tweaks to refine that. And so I am really happy about it, and I'm excited about don't know if this is Mimikyu's new move. Mimikyu's my favorite Pokemon. They added a new Mimikyu move called Let's Snuggle Forever.
Oh, this is borderline disturbing.
Did
I love it.
someone draw a face on that Pokemon?
Oh my
Hold on,
God.
watch this.
He
Though.
doesn't know
So
what
if you're not,
Mimikyu
if you're listening to this afterward, Mimikyu's new Ultra. What is it? Ultra move?
It's a Z move.
He just puts his skirt lower half of his body over Pokemon, and then
it beats
something
him up.
terrible happens to them inside it, and then he poops them out.
So
Like stomach acid gets
So,
spewed out, and they kind of.
Mimikyu is a ghost fairy type Pokemon that just wants to be loved, and so it dresses up as a Pikachu, but it's not very artistic. So its outfit is very bad, but that's why I love it. It just wants to be your friend.
I'm tearing up a little bit.
Okay.
I love Mimikyu so much.
So go play Pokemon Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon if you liked past versions. This is the definitive version to play.
This is the best Pokemon ever.
Whoa.
That is. I'm not going to answer that question.
Where does your heart belong in the Pokemon pantheon?
My favorite Pokemon game is Pokemon Crystal.
I didn't play that one.
I just want a Pokemon game where
Is
you
that 4th generation?
second generation.
Oh. I was trying to sound smart. I figured I had like a 1 in 6 chance.
It's the one. It's Iwata's legacy in Pokemon is that he made it so you could go to Kanto after Johto. It's
Oh yeah, Jake loves that game too.
Gen
right?
2
He talks
is
about it all the time.
no, his favorite's first generation. Gen 2 is the best generation though.
I didn't play Gen 2.
Listen to me.
Okay.
I got a question. How many Pokemon are there now?
700.
25.
I think it's like either 720 or 740. I don't know the exact number.
Still more Korok seeds.
There's still more Korok seeds than there are Pokemon.
Yeah.
So
Right.
you could collect all the Pokemon probably faster than the Korok seed. Actually, I would love to see a comparison.
You could probably collect every Pokemon faster than you get Darth Vader in Battlefront 2. All right, actually, that's a good segue.
Segue!
So, all right, Battlefront 2 comes out officially tomorrow night, Friday, November 17th.
Unless you paid for the $80 or $90 version,
Yeah, if you
then
pay
you
for
can
the
buy it now, even in stores.
Deluxe edition, you have it. Apparently, yeah, it's just there. You can play it.
You just go to Target and say, I want to
also,
spend $90.
the early access EA Play First. People have played it, and then people who went to a review event, and then we have a few copies in the office. Been playing it a lot, and I don't even know where to start. I do want to get into the campaign because so much of the conversation around this game is because of the hiccups, to say the least, in multiplayer. We'll get to the campaign soon, but let me kind of set the stage for what's going on if you haven't heard yet.
Rob.
So ever since Battlefront Updates, this YouTube channel back in June, did sort of a teaser for how progression would work. We did a segment of the lobby in June where, Rob, you expressed worry that this game might be pay to win. Flash forward to after an alpha and into the beta and the play first play session. Turns out, yeah, these star cards are kind of imbalancing the game because they're not cosmetic items that you can inadvertently pay, or you can pay for. They are actual abilities in the game and modifiers and buffs. So that was a problem in its own. But then people who were playing this game all week, whether through pre-ordering or playing through play first, etc., expressed worry because in the game you have to use credits, in-game credits, to buy heroes. The two most expensive ones were Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. Tier below that's like Palpatine, Chewbacca, Leia, etc. In order to unlock those players with 60,000 credits, because the game is now the credits earned is based on play time, not skill or wins or anything.
So
which they changed.
It was. EA has been saying that their plan is. I can't remember their statements because they're very vague. But basically, they're saying whether or not that's happening right now, the plan is to incorporate performance as well as time. But they said that it's currently still focused mainly on time. So you're right. But I just wanted to say that like they are stating that it will have or will it factor in more of your performance. Just to state that.
So someone did the math. I forget. The Hotter Potato, a Reddit user, said that if you were to just save up credits over just playtime, it would take you 40 actual hours to unlock Vader or Skywalker, and one of them.
Right,
and that's assuming you're not spending credits
on loot
on
crates.
weapon parts or loot
On
crates
literally anything else.
Right.
the whole time. And then, so then it just becomes the messaging is so mixed because when this went to Reddit, EA responded saying, we want it to be a sense of pride and accomplishment to unlock these heroes. People are like, 40 hours is a pretty hefty task for just one hero. So
For a basic ass Star Wars hero.
right, and it's not exactly.
Right.
It's
Vader.
they're kind of surface, and also again, that's assuming you're not spending credits on anything else, which there are a lot of things to spend credits on, but there are also crystals, which we can get to momentarily. This is just overall confusing. Alessandro, when you came back from the review event saying, yeah, we're not even 100% sure how this works yet. And then you and Pete did a video.
EA, apparently.
That's the thing. EA is kind of expressing these sentiments that they might not even understand because that response on Reddit was the most downvoted Reddit post allegedly, and then people are like, it has to be because like Reddit doesn't keep track of that, but literally the second most downvoted Reddit post was someone asking to be downvoted. So as of yesterday,
Can I say
wait,
something?
hold on.
I'm sorry.
If you're so as of yesterday, the response from EA had negative 663,000 points, and that was yesterday. And I'm sure it's gone up as more news of this has come out. So EA, because of all this vitriol, which I think is well earned on their part, if that makes sense, they decreased the price to the credits, in-game credits for Vader and Skywalker, all heroes, by 75%. So ostensibly it would have taken 75% less time because, like you said, most of the credits are earned on playtime. But whether that was a good show of goodwill or not, they also decreased the finishing campaign went from giving you 20,000 credits, that's enough to get you Iden Versio or a third of the way to Darth Vader Luke. They decreased that to 5,000, unless you beat it before that change.
Right, but there's like a weird secondary thing there because the 5,000 is how much it now costs to unlock Iden.
Yeah, so it's like they were saying, okay, we're bringing Iden down to 5,000, so now we'll give the campaign to that.
But
because
the
she's the
argument
protagonist.
is, why should I be forced to pay for her if you're just going to give me the money it costs to unlock her? Just give her money.
The choice is yours. It's just saying well, the choice. But that's the problem with that answer is like you're giving me a bunch of credits and you're saying that like I should be spending this on Iden.
Right.
How is that an excuse to lower the price?
Right.
You gave me credits for the campaign. If you're going to make that statement, then make it an unlock from completing the campaign. Give me Iden immediately.
If life worked that way, we'd all be getting paid a lot more as the economy shrinks and grows and whatever. Like, this shit doesn't work that way.
Yeah, inflation doesn't seem to exist in Star Wars Battlefront 2, or it does.
It does.
To a fault.
Yes.
To a bigger fault.
Thank you. Yes.
Sorry, I'm not an economy major. Not that you need to be to understand that. Another thing, an EA dev. Okay, so there's two things that happen with EA devs. So first of all, EA said that Reddit post and the negativity directorium encouraged them to decrease the heroes, and then DICE's executive producer said, it's going to be a constant state of change, like many games are today. It's kind of a games as service thing. We're going to be always updating it. But then they dropped the price of those heroes by 75% 2 days before launch. They decreased the earning you get from campaign to 5,000 instead of 20,000, like Pete said, because Iden Versio, the protagonist of the campaign that we've seen, is now 5,000. But they also got this one person on Twitter who was claiming to be an EA dev. I won't mention the Twitter name because I'm sure in the recent news yesterday, they've still got more shit. But I do have it up now. They said that they got 1,600 personal attacks and 7 death threats, which they were keeping track of for legal purposes. And they also said they were an EA dev. But Kotaku and Waypoint both looked into it further. And there's no actual evidence. And based on EA says, we take those allegations very seriously. We're going to look into it. But as of now, there's no record that this person is an actual person at EA. And yesterday I was looking at it, and this person's profile on Twitter said like #WeAreEA, kind of implying they were an EA dev. They said my opinions are mine alone, not my employer's. They mentioned game dev in their profile, and now I'm looking at it now. Those EA things are gone.
Yeah.
And the profile's private, so you have to follow it. And I followed them yesterday. You have to follow this profile in order to see the tweets, and they had deleted some of those tweets.
Yeah. The person's probably a liar. If you look into the history of their tweets, they claim to have started working at EA at multiple different points of time. They claim to work in multiple different departments.
On like games that aren't even Battlefront 2, I think they said they were on a sports game at first, like with Ultimate Team stuff.
Oh, but yeah.
Yeah. So regardless, those death threats and personal attacks, I mean, I know there's a lot of vitriol directed at EA, but for that person specifically, it may not be complete. They might not check out. No one has any evidence that person exists as they claim to exist within EA's organization.
It's just AI. It's just a bot.
But also, another EA dev, I don't have the name, the other day was stating that, well, people are like, well, you have to play a shit ton of the game to unlock heroes. There's no other way to unlock them. But you can because they're like, you can't buy heroes with real world money. But then someone's like, that's not true, because you can buy crystals, which you can buy loot crates with, which if you get duplicates in loot crates, you convert that to credits, which you can then spend on heroes. So in an indirect way, you can spend real money on heroes if you get duplicates in loot crates but with crystals.
But you don't know how much money you have to spend.
Right, because
That's the problem.
because you don't know what you're going to get in each pack.
Yeah.
And that's where the gambling aspect comes in. But EA keeps taking these somewhat half measures, and then you see another thing that kind of balances it out in the milestones for beating the campaign. So now we're all thinking that EA doesn't know what it's doing.
Now we're all tired of this game, and we don't want to think about it anymore.
So I am so exhausted of this game. So there you go. So there's $100. So we did that test just to see, and you can see in the upper right-hand corner there is almost 30,000 credits. That is strictly from paying $100 and getting duplicates and getting. Actually, there's a duplicate in the right there for 200 credits. Actually, also getting credits from loot crates, and I'm talking about like 1,000 credits. So it's just, like everything about this system, you can just like funnel into opening a loot crate.
Yeah, so those crystals right there.
That is everything about this progression system is just funneling into opening and the act of opening and purchasing these loot crates. Whether it's through crystals, whether it's through credits, that's all this game is about. And there lies the problem. Like, what game is like this, where is 100% about the act of opening a loot crate?
It's such a confluence of three shitty practices. It's just microtransactions to begin with, which they can be done well, like in something like Overwatch, or I think Rainbow Six Siege does it really well in the 2 years since its release, and they have another third-year plan. They're doing something right. But it's also, these are pay-to-win aspects because it's actually affecting your abilities and modifiers, not just cosmetics and aesthetics. But also, like Pete mentioned, and you mentioned, these loot crates are very much... It's gambling. You don't know what you're going to get in them. In Titanfall, we mentioned before, you know you're getting a Scorch Prime cosmetic. You know you're buying this North Star cosmetic. You know you're getting this weapon camouflage. In this, who knows what you're going to get in this crate that you just spent. You spent real world money to get crystals to buy this crate, and you're hoping for something new, or you're hoping for duplicates that you can transform into credits to buy these heroes to circumvent that 40 hours that it takes. I don't know that anybody's done the math since they decreased the milestones. I'm sure it's not too different, because I still want to look into whether other milestones and rewards changed aside from the campaign. Rob, you said you didn't see much yet, but maybe we can look back at our old footage and then look at the new stuff now.
Yeah, it's tough to do because it's hard to gauge. You know, you talk about time, and then now they're saying, oh, there is a little bit of performance that affects your reward for matches, but it's legit hard to determine, and I think that says a lot about this progression, and that I like to figure that's why it's meant to be so. It's meant to be so muddy and unclear that all your mind goes to, because these systems are so complex that all your mind goes to is, well, I guess I gotta open more loot crates.
Snap,
that's all I can say. Like, it's
Snap JD in the YouTube chat was saying the Division did well too. Like, I do want to kind of, if we have time, talk about games that are doing post-release well, because, like we said, 2017 is a year in such that so many games that are early access are more complete than some games that have a full release, $60. Other games have microtransactions where, you know, who knows when people are going to stop paying money and throwing their wallets at the screen for Battlefront 2, or I don't know, what's another, Shadow of War, which has also like actual things that affect your abilities in the campaign, in the single player campaign.
In the very end of the game.
Right, and that's not as egregious as what they're doing with Battlefront 2. But the thing that those share in common is that, you know, Lord of the Rings is going to pull people from a different demographic that don't always play games. Star Wars, probably even more so, is going to pull people that don't always play games. So, you know, we talked about it the other week. EA, just in Ultimate Team alone, made like $1.3 billion in microtransactions. Like, people can complain all they want and downvote Reddit comments all they want. EA, in the end, is going to care about the money they're making, which sounds obvious, but if you really want to get this to stop, I would say stop paying for games like this, or stop paying for microtransactions. But at the same time, we were talking about this before the show went live, if you're watching this right now, I don't think you're the kind of person, I'm generalizing, but I think the people who are whales, what the industry calls them, that spend the most money on these are people who just kind of accept it for what it is and might not go to GameSpot or onto Reddit or to Waypoint, Kotaku,
but
etc.
I think the key difference here is that people who might be used to that, you could theorize, would also be used to it because they've seen this on mobile, where a lot of non-traditional gamers go to play games. But those games on mobile tend to be free. They don't tend to be full price releases with all this stuff integrated so centrally to the rest of the games.
And again, this is Star Wars, and it's going to pull in so many people who might not normally be exposed to microtransactions, who come in, say, oh, this is how games are. I haven't played a game since 5 years ago. I didn't know this.
And if you look through all this, you can find shit like the Starfighter Assault mode and like all this other stuff that is great about it, but it's just it's all lost behind this veil of confusion.
Again, and I have to bring back this idea of a funnel, going back to loot crates, because all these systems in play, like, nothing is easily accessible. Everything is like pulling you back into the idea of opening a loot crate. Like, you get rewards during a match. You have to like legit. I can't just like continue playing.
To exit multiplayer, right?
Because I have to exit the game and go to the milestones and get my reward. Now I'm already out of game, so I might as well go open up a loot crate. But like anything you earn in game is always requiring you to pull to like. You just think about
you
so
put
many
the game
times.
aside and just focus on crates. That's what you have to do.
Yeah, like how many times like you think of other multiplayer games where it's like you get an unlock and like it automatically like tosses it on your.
Do you want to
tree.
equip it? No, store it. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Now,
Let's go.
Let's go. Let's keep playing.
Yeah.
Same goes for the arcade mode that people keep complaining about. I heard a lot of complaint today is that the arcade mode allows you to win rewards, but I don't know how many times or how many hours after. Given up, say you just want to play that game and have the frustration of competitive online like just behind you, and you just want to focus on playing a fairly fun game mode. You hit a ceiling, and the game says, "No, you got to wait now 3 hours in order to actually get credit."
Wait, it did. Seriously?
Yeah, they
You
straight
can
up
keep
do
playing,
that.
but you ain't gonna get rewarded.
You're not gonna get
anymore.
rewards for it.
Because we've been over everything else, so I'm like already
But wait,
exhausted.
there's more.
I'm already exhausted by the microtransactions conversations, as I'm sure a lot of people are. But it makes you wait to earn more from playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had to wait 3 hours. What the?
You already paid for the. That's the other thing from mobile games.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Because like it's an exhaustion. It's a frustration factor that is so mobile game driven.
Well,
where
like-
it's like you get a taste. Even the milestones. Sorry to cut you off, but like even the milestones are like, here's all these rewards you're getting. That's a finite amount of milestones where eventually you're going to get past that, and then now you're even dipping further as far as your reward factor of how many credits you're getting. Where you're going to hit, I think, at some point this roadblock, and you're going to be like, I'm not getting credits as fast as I used to be getting.
So it's actually 15 hours.
15 hours.
15 hours.
For what?
Until you can play again, you mean?
So you can play arcade as much as you want, but you can only get up to 500 credits.
Right. But
You can only get up to
And then
5.
it's a 15-hour cooldown.
It's a 15-hour cooldown.
I thought it was 3 hours.
So,
Today I thought it was 3 hours. I think they may have changed that, Jean-Luc. Today
Would anyone be surprised if EA came back and like, okay, guys, we hear you. So, if
So-
you want to pay 1,000 crystals, you can keep earning credits.
and crystals. And there's one other thing that you, as you were listing all these like somewhat responses from EA, that one that just makes me frustrated is somewhat of a response that I gathered was that, it's a video game, it's an online community. The currency, it's naturally gonna need changing, and inflation needs to be adjusted and so forth. That is such bullshit when you think about someone who did everything that they wanted, pre-ordered the game in early access, just wants to play Luke Skywalker, pays the 60,000 credits and gets Luke Skywalker, and then they flip it and they say, now it's actually 20,000 credits.
Right.
That's appalling. You can't just like spin that like as if it's a natural like evolution of a video game.
Yeah, it's not like this is a thing like Eve, where there's like an actual economist who works on the game, and it's an evolving economy that like grows and changes with an always online like world. It's not the same thing as just setting prices in a game that it's not an economy in the real world, so it's not going to shift and evolve. Like, I don't know. And like they've made enough games where it shouldn't be that hard to figure out how much something should cost. I really don't think it should be that hard.
Yeah, the Hot Potato did this Excel sheet that was pretty in-depth. This is based before that change, when Luke and Darth Vader were both 15,000 credits, Palpatine, Leia, Chewbacca were 10, and Iden was 5,000. Assuming they went really in depth, United States minimum wage is $7.25. No, listen, hear me out.
Gosh.
So this is how deep they went. Hours at minimum wage to buy 60 trooper crates would be 13 hours and 79. Wow.
Does that include taxes being taken out?
No. No, I don't think so.
Don't.
So hours at minimum wage to buy 60 trooper crates is almost 14. So gameplay hours to buy 60 trooper crates is 157
At best.
at best. So based on this, it's currently 11.4 times more efficient with your time to spend money rather than play Battlefront 2.
Whoa.
So that's before the change. So I'm sure it's not as bad now, but it's still, like the game is geared like. Again, you paid $60 for this game. It's not free to play, like you mentioned. Mobile games, that's the whole trade-off. It's you can pay to save time, or you could play and just not spend anything, and that's your prerogative.
It's also not an altruistic work of art. I mean, it's made to earn money.
And it's it just seems like everything based on the math is devoted to trying to get you to pay, and then if you want to just play like you do in a game, it's gonna take a long, long time.
We could just play other video games and not think about this one.
I know.
I'm doing.
That's what I am doing as well.
The fact that you're pulling up a freaking spreadsheet like coincides with, I think, a final point of why this upsets me the most is that.
Sorry, somewhat Super D in the YouTube chat said just buy crystals on the darknet.
Okay.
Just use Bitcoin. EA is gonna bring that in soon.
The fact that
Sorry.
we're all adults trying to figure this out,
Right.
Speak for yourself.
and it's Star Wars,
yeah.
where like
Children.
there are children playing this game,
Yeah.
and there's no freaking way that they are like
A kid
are
isn't
able-
doing the opportunity cost math.
let me judge my bills.
Well, if I get $1 allowance
20,
a
yeah.
week, then it'll take.
It's honestly
It's a funnel into the idea of opening a loot crate, and I'm just trying my best to think like as a kid would, and it's like I need to get more loot crates.
And Cheetos.
How? Mom Cheetos, loot crates, more money, open.
people are gonna get loot crates in their stockings this year. Over the holidays. So when it first started off, we're like, okay, we know EA wants to make money. We know there's going to be microtransactions. So it was one of two things. It's either EA knows what it's doing and it's just trying to hide the fact that it's being exploitative, or EA doesn't even understand Battlefront's economy. I think it's both. I think they're obviously trying to squeeze money out, but I also think they have no idea what they're doing right now. They're trying to figure out how to make money and please people in the public image and like reconcile these things that people have been exposing. But again, I think they're just as confused as we are with this economy. It's not a good sign for a game that hasn't even officially released yet.
Yeah, they've had statements where like nothing is, every comment, like, they did like a Reddit AMA today, which just sifting through some of the comments from them or responses is just like what you've been hearing as far as like, we've heard you, we're looking into it, we're doing this and that. And it's even comments just like, yeah, like we, the currency system, like we realized that like it wasn't like it wasn't like finalized at launch and all these things where it's just what you said. It's
It
just
shouldn't
like
be that difficult to finalize if it's not too complicated to begin with.
But a lot of these comments too, I think, are like contradictory. Where it's like we just took the data from the beta and implemented it. Like, how does that make sense?
Yeah, you and I were talking about this yesterday. Like, they claim to be listening and caring about what fans think, but if they were doing that after the beta, the alpha, the play first, the E3 showing, we wouldn't be in this situation if they were really listening.
The hero card, like the expensive heroes, is only one piece of the problem, and that was sort of treated like a Band-Aid for that as treating the whole game. And it's like, no, that's actually just one of many issues in a huge problematic system.
It's like the fulcrum of people's argument against this game right now because it's so easy to say, oh, like it's tangible. It's like, oh, it went from 60,000 to 15, whatever it is, 15,000. It's still going to take a lot of time to unlock all these heroes. It's around 40 hours still.
I can't believe they put a cooldown on a mode.
Yes,
I am like,
yeah. So
what?
at first I was like, well, there are a lot of games that have daily challenges that cool down the next day, but those are not. You can play any mode you want and beat these challenges. Like again, I keep bringing it up because I've been playing a lot. Rainbow Six Siege they have loot crates now, but it's all cosmetic. Like unless you're getting operators, which is just you can still play and it's still fair in how many credits you earn. Not credits, renown it's called in that game. But you can play any game mode and complete these challenges. There's a cooldown on the daily challenges because they're daily challenges. You can keep playing any game mode and earning credits. Whereas you said in Battlefront, you could keep playing this mode and not get any reward.
Well, I mean, it's like Destiny. You have your like chores that you do, your like daily, your weekly or daily things that you do, and
They're presented that way.
But
Yeah.
they are.
And
It's like this is a daily activity, and there's still other things you can do. Although some people would argue that there's not enough to do in Destiny 2. We can talk about that at a different time. And there is like a diminishing returns effect on like what you get out of if you were going to repeat that activity.
Right.
But this is like just an arcade like this.
Yeah. Well, when you're talking about Destiny, once you finish all those chores, you could still go to another mode and still get some sort of reward from it. Battlefront is saying, no, you can play this mode if you're having fun, but you will not get anything out of it. Destiny, you could do chores and then go.
It wouldn't matter if the whole purpose of the game was.
But
I can't do that.
but also in Destiny, correct me if I'm wrong. No matter what you're really doing, you're still leveling up
You're getting
slowly.
experience.
You're still
getting
doing
experience.
things.
You're still doing
Yeah,
something.
you're still doing things
Right.
and gaining something out of it, even if it's not like an exotic.
And so you look at something, because there are many ways you can get different things, right? With like the weapons, for instance, either you luck out on an opening one, a crate with a weapon, or the last weapon, which is some of the cooler and I would say the best weapons, like really like heavy duty, like explosive round sniper rifles, get 500 kills as a specialist class, and that's only killing like actual players. Like that is just going to take you a really, really long time. That's just going to take you a long time. And you like to think of like something like that is it's not as simple as I'm trying to correlate that to like Destiny, where it's like, well, I'm always still, at least you know that you're somewhat leveling up. Like there
But
is,
also, there's no like the only real world money that you can't buy sweet business with dollars. You can buy cosmetic stuff with dollars. So that's why I didn't know about the cooldown, and I was just like, that is just the cherry on top of all of it.
I guess what I'm also trying to get at is you're now requiring me to play one way for a very, very long time. I'm getting battle points, but there's no point in me becoming Kylo Ren or flying a ship or doing all those other activities within Battlefront that are enjoyable and keep the game lively. I am focused on one class. That's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to shoot people with this gun. Like, that's going to take a really long time. It's frustrating as hell.
Anonymous Mink in the YouTube chat says, this is partly GameSpot's fault. Them and IGN could have helped put an end to these types of games when they started putting them out. Like I just said, I think the majority of people spending money in these games probably might not watch the lobby every week when we're ranting about this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we do our best to kind of call these things out, and our audience tends to agree with us.
Yeah.
That doesn't translate to a loss of sales.
My uncle Jeff, who loves Star Wars, isn't going to go to the lobby like, shit, I'm not getting this Star Wars game now.
Right.
Yeah, I wish we could stop it. I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. I think they're making enough money off of these outside of the circles that we are all collectively in right now. And even people who do understand it and aren't used to it are just going to keep doing it.
It's our fault.
If you're watching and you don't want these games to keep happening, I would say don't spend money on microtransactions. I hate that it's an afterthought. I did want to talk about the campaign, but that's what sucks. I think that's indicative of
That's the thing
Battlefront
that sucks
2.
is like that it's not the campaign's fault, and like
But also, it's such a big part of the conversation, these shitty predatory practices, that it's overshadowing almost every other conversation we could be having about the game. The campaign, in the end, when you beat it, it's still tied to the microtransactions in the milestone, in how you buy Iden. And
So
Jake
much.
and Jean-Luc were lucky enough to get the 20,000 credits from beating the campaign, 30,000, whatever it was, before the change. So now they could spend on other heroes, but that's a smaller
Campaign
test case.
The whole game is so heavily tied into loot crates that you're even reminded through cutscenes during the campaign that you are getting loot crates, and that collectibles in the game are also tied into getting credits. So you're getting milestones for it's reminding you well, you get this milestone for completing this mission, but there's also 2 other hidden milestones, little crates that you use your droid to open up, and those will give you credits, which everything is filtered back into the multiplayer. But what's frustrating is I, for one, was really excited for this. I guess we're talking about campaign now. But campaign, I wanted to see this untold story, right? Of after Return of the Jedi. But even the cutscenes, they're every time it's initiated at the end of each mission, it's a prompt that's immediately starting and during dialogue, and it's saying you just got a loot crate. Exit the campaign if you want to open it and see what's in it. You want to know what's in the loot crates that you get?
Crafting parts.
No, not just that. So you get like, say, I think there's 12 missions. I'll just tell you, you get all these loot crates. Half, I want to say half, maybe a little less than half of all the star cards that you get in the loot crates are oriented around the Luke Skywalker star card. Luke Skywalker is locked.
Right.
And costs 20,000 credits.
Right. So you're not really getting anything.
So you're not really getting that whole half of the star cards are, unless you play the campaign first, right? That's how most people play any kind of game, like a shooter. That's how I play it. You're getting stuff for a character you haven't unlocked yet.
And it's so hard to talk about all this stuff without sounding confusing and sifting through so many different currencies and how these affect that and how the campaign is going to affect multiplayer and vice versa. And I think that's half the point. I think EA, in that respect, knew that if they obfuscated enough or made this hazy or that kind of foggy, that it would encourage people to say, fuck it, I'm going to save time and brain power and just pay for Vader by getting crystals to get crates, to get duplicates, to get credits.
Just play another game.
Just play another game.
Just play another video game.
Or
let this
or
one
play this game, the campaign. I don't know. Whatever. Do what you want. Use your money however you want. I'm not going to tell you to not buy this game, but I'm not going to buy it.
I think that's the show.
So that's it. Yeah, I was going to talk about campaign, but again, I think that's just pretty much all we can say about Battlefront 2 right now. Is Alessandro's review in progress up? Will it be soon?
Dude, that's been up.
It's been up.
Have you ever been at GameSpot.com?
Review in progress.
Review in progress. Did I not say that?
You did.
Sorry.
Oh, you did. I'm sorry. Maybe you did.
Oh my God, we're losing our minds. Let's.
Yeah, so that's our show pretty much. I do want to get to a few other things. Like I said, if you want to go check out Alessandro's review in progress for the game, I think it's a 6 out of 10 right now, rightfully so, based on just a lot of this shit that EA's doing with it. But if you want to go more in depth, go read that. Go watch our video review on YouTube and GameSpot. That's our show. Thank you for everybody joining in the YouTube and Twitch and GameSpot chats. As always, we welcome your company, and thank you to the people that are sending in questions and comments throughout the show. I do want to talk about Extra Life one more time because it's our last lobby before we start it. Friday at noon, that's November 17th, noon Pacific time, we are going to kick off our Extra Life live stream. For those of you, if this is your first time, it's like a video game industry tradition every year. All proceeds to these live streams will just go to sick children.
Oh.
And we personally here at GameSpot will be donating to UCSF Benioff's Children's Hospital here in the Bay Area. So you can go there to tinyurl.com/GS Extra Life 2017. Or you can follow the hashtag GS Extra Life on Twitter. We'll be talking about it all week and weekend. So San Francisco office, the UK office, and the Australia office will be handing it off. We'll be kicking things off, and then for 24 hours, I believe. And then UK will be going for 12 hours, and then Australia will finish it off for 24 hours. Yeah, pretty much everybody on staff will be coming on camera to play. Callie and I will be kicking off with Joey and Sam. We're gonna play some Pokemon games, maybe some like Skyrim on Switch. I have no idea. It'll be out that day.
Yeah.
Definitely not gonna play Battlefront 2 anymore.
I think we're still finalizing our list.
Yeah.
But it'll be a fun time.
So if you have some a few extra dollars to throw at us, so we could throw it to the hospitals, feel free to come stop by. Even if you don't, we'd love to come have you hang out
And make us do dumb stuff, but don't make us eat anything gross, please God.
Well, I'll do that. I'll eat gross
no
stuff.
one is throwing up when I'm on stream. I swear to God.
Yeah, I'll try not to.
Thanks.
But yeah, come hang out with us. That starts again noon Pacific time on the 17th, right before the U.S. Thanksgiving week. So it'll be a good time to prepare for vacation.
Peter and I are playing from midnight
Yeah,
Friday to 6 a.m.
You got the graveyard shift. Yeah, it's all night. It's all night. It's a marathon. We'll be going for 4 hours at the beginning. We'll switch off for a few other people. Come hang out. Oh, and we also have a bunch of giveaways. I think the 3 items that our social team wanted to highlight is the 10th anniversary BioShock statue. We're giving away an Xbox One and also, what's the third one? An Assassin's Creed Origins kind of bundle, which oddly enough, I don't know that it comes with a game. It's like a statue, art book, a lot of like behind the scenes stuff. But we have a ton. We have a huge list, so we'll be pretty much doing one like every hour, if not more often. So come hang out. You could win one of those things. And in the meantime, stay tuned to GameSpot for whenever our full Battlefront 2 review happens. GT Sport review is up now that you got to play more of the online stuff.
Well, I didn't review it, my friend.
GT
Have
Sport?
you ever been to GameSpot.com?
Review in progress. You didn't do the review in progress for GT Sport?
I didn't even publish a review in progress.
But you played it. Oh, we talked about the lobby.
I wrote
That's
like
what happened.
featurey,
Gotcha.
sort of like,
Okay.
here's what this game is. We had James Swinbanks, freelancer out of Australia.
That's a sick last name.
Yeah, who had the time to put 50 hours plus into the game.
That's up now.
Get to the championship events that kicked off last week, and we have our review.
In the meantime, go play Rocket League on Switch. Go play Doom on Switch if you haven't played it yet, if you have a Switch.
Come on.
What else do you want to play? Don't play Battlefront 2. Yeah, there you go. There you have it. We will see you hopefully on Friday for Extra Life and all weekend. Otherwise, as far as us four are concerned, we'll see you next week, same time, 11 a.m. Wednesday. See you then.